All right, let's talk about relationship drama. And I don't mean the little arguments about who's doing the dishes. I'm talking about the real stuff. The hidden, corrosive patterns that can turn something that's supposed to be about love into a slow-burning emergency. We're going to spot it, we're going to understand why it happens, and most importantly, we're going to talk about how to break free.
You know, so often, relationships don't actually end with a big bang. There isn't always some huge betrayal. Sometimes it's just a slow fade. The replies get a little bit slower, calls get missed, and before you know it, two people are basically strangers again. It's this quiet kind of heartbreak, and it happens when the effort just stops. It's a feeling that, unfortunately, a lot of us know way too well.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. The most dangerous relationship dynamics, they rarely announce themselves. They don't walk in the door wearing a sign. They creep in, they escalate, and they disguise themselves as love so convincingly that even the sharpest, most self-aware people can get completely tangled up in them. So let's look at what's really going on under the surface.
Emotional manipulation is usually the gateway. It's when a partner figures out exactly which of your emotional buttons to press to get what they want. It could be guilt-tripping you, giving you the silent treatment for days, or even using their own pain and vulnerability as a kind of leash to keep you in line.
And this phrase right here really just nails it. Think about a sentence like, if you really loved me, you wouldn't go out with your friends tonight. On the surface, it sounds like insecurity, right? Like a plea for you to stay. But what is it really? It's control, plain and simple. It's just been packaged in a way that makes you feel guilty for even thinking about saying no.
And then there's gaslighting. And this one is genuinely sinister, because its whole purpose is to attack your perception of reality. They'll say something incredibly hurtful. You bring it up later, and they hit you with, "That never happened. You're just making things up again." And if you hear that enough, you actually start to believe it. You stop trusting your own memory, and you become dependent on their version of events. It's literally psychological warfare, conducted right in your own living room.
You know, what's so insidious about these patterns is how they can pretend to be something positive, especially at the beginning. Control and possessiveness, well, that can look a lot like protectiveness. Constant criticism, oh, they're just trying to help you be better. And listen, if you find yourself rehearsing sentences in your head, trying to figure out the right way to say something to avoid a blow-up, that is a blazing red flag that something is deeply, deeply wrong.
So the big question is, why? Why do people act this way? Well, let's get into the psychology of it. Because the people who create these toxic dynamics aren't always mustache-twirling villains. A lot of the time, they are carrying around some deep, unprocessed psychological damage and have simply never learned what healthy love is supposed to look like.
Often, the reasons are rooted in some kind of deep pain. I mean, think about it. If someone grew up watching a parent scream to get their way, they might just replicate that exact pattern without even realizing it. Or, if someone experienced abandonment as a kid, they might develop this suffocating grip on their partner, not out of malice, but out of this deep-seated terror that everyone is going to leave them.
So here's the crucial point. These drivers, things like unresolved trauma, low self-esteem on both sides, those conflicting attachment styles, and codependency, where one person's identity gets all tangled up in saving the other, they can explain the behavior. But, and this is a huge but, they never, ever excuse it. Understanding the why is about recognizing the root of the problem, not about letting someone off the hook for the harm they're causing.
Now, this table breaks down one of the most common toxic cycles you'll ever see. You take someone with an anxious attachment style who clings and is terrified of rejection, and you put them with someone who has an avoidance style, who withdraws and sees deep intimacy as a threat. The more the anxious partner tries to pull them close, the more the avoidant partner pushes away. It's this vicious cycle that can feel like intense passion, but what it really is two people reenacting their childhood wounds on each other.
Okay, so let's look at how these psychological drivers actually play out in real life. I'm going to share some patterns that are drawn from real therapeutic case studies. Now, of course, the details have all been changed for privacy, but the dynamics, they are tragically authentic.
The first case we can call the jealousy spiral. Here, a partner's past trauma led to this really intense jealousy. At first, it looked like attentiveness, which can be nice, but then it escalated into checking phones, controlling who she saw. And to prove her loyalty, she started cutting off friends, avoiding work events. She was literally reshaping her entire life to manage his anxiety, and by the end of it, she said she felt like a ghost, completely and utterly isolated.
Then you have something called guilt without a crime.
In this case, one partner just had a gift from making the other feel constantly at fault. So if she got a promotion at work, he'd make these little passive-aggressive comments until she actually started downplaying her own accomplishments just to keep the peace. It's a quiet, persistent way of making someone feel like they are always failing at love.
And finally, the blame shift machine. And I love this description for it: trying to nail water to a wall. This is when one partner has perfected the art of the redirect. It doesn't matter what the issue is. They will somehow, some way, flip it around so that the other person ends up apologizing. The original problem never, ever gets addressed. And here's exactly how it works. Step 1, partner A brings up a totally valid concern. Step 2, partner B immediately deflects, either by dredging up something from the past or just by having a much bigger emotional reaction. And then step 3, partner A, the one who was hurt in the first place, somehow finds themselves comforting and apologizing to the very person who wounded them. It's a devastatingly effective tactic that just preys on empathy.
Okay, if any of this has felt familiar, if your chest tightened up a little listening to those stories, this next part is a direct message to you. Because recognition is the first step, and let's be honest, it is a brutal one. Admitting that the person you love is also the person who is hurting you is incredibly difficult, but it is so necessary.
Here are the crucial, practical steps you can take to start taking back control. First, you have to recognize and name the pattern for what it is. Then, you set a boundary. Start documenting what's happening. It helps you stay anchored in your reality. Begin rebuilding your support network with friends and family. And if you feel you need to leave, make a safety plan first.
This part is so important. A boundary isn't a threat, it's a test. When you finally set one, like saying, "I need you to stop checking my phone," the reaction you get tells you everything you need to know. A healthy partner might be a little uncomfortable, but ultimately they'll respect it. A toxic partner, they will escalate. They will hit you with guilt, with rage, with threats, anything to get you back under their control.
And please know that there is help available. This hotline isn't just for physical violence, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. It counts. Your experience is valid, and you absolutely do not have to go through this alone.
I really want you to let this sink in. You deserve a relationship where your success is celebrated, not punished. You deserve a love that feels like a safe harbor, not a minefield. You deserve to be your full, unfiltered self without fear.
So I'll just leave you with this question. Forget the drama, the pain, the patterns for just a moment, and ask yourself this: what does being truly, healthily, and safely loved actually feel like to you? Because that is what you deserve. Take care of yourselves.